You know, I realized the other day is that we haven't reviewed one pastry video after all the videos that we've reviewed. So today we're going to be seeing how FutureCanoe makes a chocolate chip cookie. And I don't know about you, but I love chocolate chip cookies. If you are new to the channel, my name is James. I've been cooking for many years in the United States and over here in Europe. And I have plenty of other videos and recipes, including some desserts, on my YouTube channel. So be sure to check those out after seeing this one. Now, let's get started.
So I'm one of those people who believe that when it comes to recipe videos, the more views equals better quality. If we want to make the best chocolate chip cookie ever, we gotta first type it into the YouTube search bar and then filter it by view count. And this is the first video that came up, and just by watching this trailer, I know that's something I don't want to click on. The second and the third most viewed videos are both from Tasty, and they turn out to be the same recipe. So with a combined view count of 67 million, we have to make this 2-day chocolate chip cookie recipe.
A 2-day chocolate chip cookie recipe? My goodness. I don't think I've ever spent 2 days waiting on just to make a chocolate chip cookie. My father actually had a really good chocolate chip cookie recipe that I need to try to find the recipe because I don't know where it is right now. I moved and well, he passed away a few years ago, so I can't really ask him for the recipe right now. But it's a very good recipe, delicious. And if I can get it, I'll make it.
So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna make some toffee. A lot of butter into this pan.
6 tablespoons of butter into the pan.
Light brown sugar and a good amount of salt.
3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar and a teaspoon of salt.
Important that you stir pretty constantly throughout the process.
So we'll put the pan on medium heat and start stirring constantly.
The butter and the sugar are coming together pretty nicely.
Butter and sugar are coming together nicely.
Ooh, it looks like FutureCanoe has the heat way too high. If any of you are a little confused on, well, that kind of looks like caramel sauce. You know, toffee and caramel are similar, but they're different. Toffee is more of a brittle type texture to it, so you can actually break it. It also has more of a nutty flavor. Caramel, on the other hand, caramel is a little more subtle. It's a little sweeter as well. And caramel, you can turn that into more of a caramel sauce, so you can make it more liquidy. So basically, put it this way: toffee, brittle; caramel, gooey. That's the easy way to remember it.
Beautiful dark golden brown ribbons happening right now.
Beautiful golden brown ribbons happening right now. Look at this flip.
That's at 290.
And that is exactly why you don't want to flip this towards yourself, because you can really hurt yourself with hot butter. It's scorching hot. You can take your skin off.
That means this is ready to come out.
Once it reaches 290, it's ready to come out.
Got a nice tray with parchment paper for the landing.
A nice tray with parchment paper for landing.
It's probably one of my favorite parts. Ooh. Oh, I love it.
Alright, I'm gonna make the same sounds. Ooh, what the hell? I guess the oil from the butter got separated, and it's starting to look like the combination of number 1 and number 2. Normally I'd just carry on, but this looks so bad. I'm gonna redo it.
The one thing that I have said many times with cooking is that in the savory kitchen, we have a little more leeway. It's more like what Uncle Roger says: you cook with feeling, you can. We also follow recipes, but there's a lot of interpretation with the chef and who's cooking. In pastry, you do need more exact measurement. Not to mean that you can't wing it and you can't, you know, stretch a recipe a little bit and change it. You can. But if you happen to, well, cook the toffee on too high a heat, it will split the sauce. Now you can try to fix the split toffee with starting the process over again with a smaller batch and then slowly adding that in. If that doesn't work, you may just have to remake it.
Starting with 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and then 6 tablespoons of butter, which I cut into cubes for better melting, and a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna stir it like my life depends on it, as I trained my left hand in repetitive motion since I was 14 years old. And this is what the final product looked like. Something about it still seemed a little sus, but at least it's better than the previous attempt. We'll put it in the freezer for about an hour.
Your second attempt looks a little better, but it still looks like it's on the verge of splitting. So when making toffee, the best thing is to go a little slow.
All right, while the toffee cools, we're gonna make some brown butter. The first thing you start with is a lot of butter.
They gave the recipe in the description, and it said 2 sticks of butter, which is a block.
And that leaves the milk solids behind to turn golden brown. And that is because of something amazing called the Maillard reaction.
So what is a Maillard reaction?
We don't know what the Maillard reaction is. I don't know exactly either, but
He doesn't know what the Maillard reaction is. It's the basics. Whenever you have any proteins or any amino acids brown. In layman's terms, you want the golden brown color. It makes it tasty.
It's a chemical reaction that occurs in between the amino acids in protein when exposed to heat. It's responsible for the browning and flavor development in a variety of cooked foods, including but not limited to bread, roasted coffee, and grilled meats. In this particular case, since our butter is composed of water, whey protein solids, and fat, the continuous heating will evaporate the water, leaving the whey protein solids to be cooked by fat while gaining deeper color and flavor. So to summarize it,
No color, no flavor!
Now that was a very good explanation, worthy of an essay. ChatGPT is wonderful, isn't it?
When making brown butter, the water kind of melts off and evaporates.
when browning butter, you have to make sure you're stirring constantly, otherwise this will happen.
Yeah, that can happen, and it's especially dangerous if you are using a gas stove top and it's starting to brown or burn on you. Today they're going to be making some brown butter. In French cooking, this is called beurre noisette. This is hazelnut butter. This is normal butter to where we brown the proteins enough to where it gives it a nice light nutty flavor. If you were going to brown them further, we would be making beurre noir or black butter. If you're enjoying the video, guys, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything.
You want to go really slow and add 1 ice cube in at a time.
After the butter gets nice and brown like this, we're gonna put some ice cubes into it to add back the moisture. And here's what it sounds like. It's kind of interesting.
All right, dude. We're gonna set you aside.
Oh yeah, that's it. Put your face back in the butter while it's popping. Not a good thing to do. Mind you, I'm not a pastry chef. Maybe there are some pastry chefs, and if any of you are watching your pastry chef, let me know. But in the savory kitchen, when we're making beurre noisette or beurre noir, we do not add ice cubes to it to stop the cooking process. One, it's dangerous. This is basically like taking ice cubes and throwing it in the deep fryer. What happens? It starts popping. What I would recommend, not only that, but you don't want the excess water content after you just got rid of it. I would also recommend passing the beurre noir through a fine mesh strainer, even if you have like muslin cloth or anything, to get rid of the excess proteins that are in it, because you will see the proteins.
First, dark brown sugar,
For our dry ingredients, 1.5 cups of light brown sugar,
good old white sugar,
3/4 cup of old white sugar,
a lot of salt actually. I think that's one of the secrets.
2 teaspoons of salt,
Baking soda,
a key bump of baking soda,
and some espresso powder. I think espresso powder helps knock back any of that fat or that sugar that might be a little too much.
We'll harness the power of espresso powder to turn this clump of sugar and butter into a healthy snack. I've never seen espresso powder before, and this is the closest thing I could find at Target.
I've never had espresso in my chocolate chip cookie. This is a strange recipe. But to tell you that, well, if it's too sweet, we're gonna add some espresso powder to counteract some of the sugar to not make it as sweet. All right, we'll change the recipe. Don't make it so sweet. Now, normally when I make pastry recipes, and I don't eat a lot of pastries at home, so I don't make them that often, but what I do is I heavily modify the recipes. I do not typically add the amount of sugar that the recipe calls for. I don't eat a lot of sugar to begin with, and a lot of these recipes are way too sweet.
Star ingredient of the show, the brown butter.
And now we add in our brown butter. Woo!
This is going to be pretty dark compared to the other ones that we've done before.
Like many other things, I do prefer a darker batter for the bigger and better experience.
4 eggs go in. A 1, 2, 3, and a 4.
So he just used 4 whole eggs here, but in the description they said you only need 2 eggs. So I'm gonna do somewhere in the middle. 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks.
Isn't it frustrating when you're looking at a recipe and then it doesn't say what it says in the video? One tip, what I would highly recommend, crack the eggs into a separate bowl. That way, if you have any little eggshells, you don't lose it in the mix. Unless, of course, you don't mind something a little crunchy. It's just extra calcium. But a lot of the eggshells here in Europe, they're not washed, so sometimes you have a little bit of bird shit on them. And I don't want that in my cookie. Bird shit's not nice. No.
Look at the cute dog.
A lot of good vanilla.
And a lot of good vanilla.
You really want to beat it until smooth, dissolved mixture of almost like a ribbon-like consistency.
You want to beat everything together till it looks like a really thick jam or syrup.
Woo! It's gonna be a good cookie.
I'm taking a break from consuming questionable ingredients because I haven't been feeling so well since I ate mold a little while ago.
Right, another tip. If you're a little concerned on whether or not your eggs may have salmonella, long story short, if you're worried about eating raw egg, taste the recipe before adding egg. There's no reason to get yourself sick, although I do have to admit, I love raw cookie dough.
All right, dub in the flour. Slowly incorporate to these beautiful ribbons of this butter and sugar mix.
So we're going in with 2 cups and a quarter of all-purpose flour. It's gonna take a while to beat the flour into the batter, so as always, I will beat it on the couch.
Nope, this is not what you think it is. It's actually a clam. While it looks weird, this is one of the longest living animals in the entire animal kingdom, with an average lifespan of 140 years.
You know, the funny thing is like the Northwest, Washington State, is a big exporter of gooey ducks as well. Super strange, and it's not a very popular item in the Northwest. I mean, in Northwestern cuisine, that is. I think we export most of it to Asia, if I'm not mistaken. Another little tip, when making any pastry, it is very important not only to sieve the flour, it's also to weigh the flour instead of scooping it into a cup, because this will not give you an exact measurement. And you need to be careful too, because if there's a recipe where they're not doing that, the recipe can be off. I have seen this more than once with many recipes.
This is some nice chocolate in bars, and we're just gonna go in pretty large chunks.
So we're gonna pile up some dark chocolate and chop it into big chunks.
And if you're gonna be doing this, I wouldn't be using any Japanese knives to break the chocolate bars up. Not a good idea. You can very easily chip your knife, especially if you're using a shun knife. I don't know what it is about shun knives, but it's like everybody that I have known that uses a shun knife to cook with in a professional kitchen always has had an issue with chipping.
After about 30 minutes to an hour in the freezer, make sure when you do this, you don't have any neighbors and it's not 2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m., but I don't really like my neighbors, so...
Yeah. I can't rap.
Thank God he didn't start. I'm already cringed out. What kind of idiot raps when he cooks? 2 trailer park girls go around the outside.
Me personally, I don't care about the neighbors if it's 2 a.m. I'll bagpipe.
Get in there with your hands. I'm trying to make sure the chocolate and the toffee are both evenly distributed.
Some of these objects look pretty sharp, so I'm not gonna use my hands. We're just roughly folding them in till they're evenly distributed.
Generous amount, almost the size of a tennis ball, but you're gonna spend 2 days. Might as well make it a little bit bigger.
Well, I spent 23 years trying to make them a little bit bigger. It doesn't work like that. Once all our dough is shaped perfectly, we'll align them evenly on a sheet tray.
Perfectly and even. Oh, it's a good thing that he's not your builder. You know, the sad thing is that I've been in more than one house where the measurements, the corners, are never square. Never. It's like nothing is square.
This recipe specifically requires it to rest for 36 hours.
So why does resting make them taste better?
Well, I actually worked at a bakery before. The reason why they were so good is because the owner always rested it for at least 36 hours.
So I just realized I worked at a bakery before is the baking equivalent of Trust Me Bro, aka the most credible source of information.
The guy that's actually making this recipe doesn't seem to know a lot of the reasons behind why things are done to make the recipe the way it is. I mean, if you don't know, ask. It's easy, ask. A lot of times when you're in the kitchen and the chefs are telling you do that, do this, do that, do this, They don't explain to you anything at all. That's why you have to ask, because if you don't ask, you never learn.
With the lamb, we're serving a boulanger potato. The most important thing about this particular potato is like a layered cake. Got these wonderful caramelized onions, potatoes, onions, and then it's cooked with a really nice stock, so it acts as a bit of a sauce. Perfect for this time of year, and perfect with a lamb.
I'll put these in the fridge and rest it for 36 hours, and we'll bake this one right away. We'll taste both and see if there's really a difference. Just in case you can't tell, this is not a portrait of my face, even though it's in the same shape. We baked it at 375 for 18 minutes, and it seems like the cookie lost all of its gooiness and became sort of like a flatbread. Overall, it tastes pretty bland and untextured. It's supposed to be a chocolate chip cookie, but somehow it tastes like a sugar cookie.
A long recipe. I mean, honestly, if any of you read The Mouse That Wanted a Cookie, that mouse in the story would have died waiting for this recipe to be done. I mean, he wanted a cookie now, not in 36 hours.
We'll wait for 36 hours and bake them again.
Okay, so these have been in for pretty much 2 days now.
After 2 days, they visibly got a little darker, so we're gonna pick the prettiest one, roughly shape it again into a ball, and then bake it at 325 for 18 minutes. I ended up baking 2, and this is how they turned out. It doesn't really look like the original ones from the video.
No, those two look very different than the original recipe, but then again, you have to keep in mind, was the original recipe meant for the cookie dough to be cold? Was it meant to be frozen? Was it meant to be at room temp? Because this is all a variable in whether or not your cookie is going to be still soft in the middle. I'll tell you a fun little story. When I was 14, my parents had their restaurant in Freddie Harbor, Washington. One day after service, my dad made some fresh cookies and replaced the ones in the morning with fresh ones, and I wanted one. Well, my dad told me I'll have to eat one of the old ones, you know, a couple hours old. Okay. Well, I had one of the old ones, and sure enough, I chipped my tooth. Let me know down below, guys, on whether you prefer your cookies nice, soft, and gooey, or whether you want them overcooked, just like your steak.
What a 2-day cookie looks like, straight from the oven.
Once again, my cookies are on the flat side, and there's not much texture on the surface area. It almost looks as if they're undercooked in the center, but I think aging it in the fridge for 2 days helped it stay a lot thicker.
The other possibility is that FutureCanoe didn't get the measurements correct and he added too much liquid to the recipe. This could also be another thing, because if the batter is too liquidy, the dough, they're gonna be a little flat.
Really take these to the next level. We're gonna use some flaky finishing sea salt.
I couldn't find it in my grocery store, so I'm gonna skip on the flaky sea salt.
Okay, so vanilla milk, it's
Just a splash of vanilla.
So he's serving the cookies with vanilla milk. I'm gonna make my own version, starting with some ice
just some good old-fashioned milk.
and a teaspoon of instant espresso.
And just to top it off, a splash of heavy cream.
And we top our vanilla milk off with some water. Cheers.
And there you have it, a 2-day brown butter toffee chocolate chip cookie with flaky sea salt served with vanilla milk.
So here we have it, a 2-day chocolate chip cookie with vanilla milk. 90% of the 2-day cooking time is just aging in the fridge. With the same logic, I can make the claim that all my radioactive chicken dishes took more than a week to make.
The sad thing is that the majority of recipes are like this. You never seem to get the same results from the recipes where they show you a beautiful, beautiful recipe. Either one is that the recipe is off, which more often than not, this is what it is, or two, you just can't cook. With Jamie's recipes, it's more like a hit and miss. Some are okay, but you need to modify them as just the flavor, but they look fine, they're pretty. And then other times it's just like, no, it's everything.
Well, I think this cookie is looking pretty good, but I wonder what you guys think on Instagram.
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team in. Started from the bottom.
Alright, I'm gonna stack up 2 cookies and split them in half. Be prepared to feel some type of way.
If your recipe is like this too, it's not an issue, because some recipes are like this. That's how the cookies should be, but that's flat.
I would totally just take a big bite like this, but for our video, let's taste it properly and rate it 1 through 10. The The cookie is very gooey and you can see the melted toffee in the middle.
Yeah, this recipe does seem very sweet. I mean, you have the toffee, you have extra sugar on top of that. It just seems like a very, very sugary cookie.
Okay, as I'm editing this, I realized there's a fly in my house. Look. Let me know in the comments how to get rid of bugs in an apartment.
Oh, that's easy. You just need to fumigate. No, seriously though, I mean, if you have fruit laying out, normally they attract fruit flies, so you don't want those out. And believe it or not, if you live in places like Hawaii, in the kitchens, we were not allowed to have any cardboard boxes because the cockroaches actually lay eggs in the glue, or so I was told, something like this. So we would have to take everything out of the cardboard boxes before we would put them in the walk-in, the fridge. And trust me, you don't want one of the Hawaiian cockroaches in your house. They're enormous and they fly. The easiest way to get rid of those is with a shotgun. Birdshot.
We'll chase the cookie down with some vanilla milk. It truly is an extraordinary experience. The cookie's perfectly cooked, crunchy on the outside and gooey on the inside. The chocolate is nice and melted, and occasionally you get a little bit of crunchy texture from the unmelted toffee. This is really the best of all worlds. The chocolate adds a lot of that dark richness, and then the toffee provides that caramel butteriness, and is all enclosed by the cookie dough, which has a hint of coffee to cut through the fat and the sugariness. So overall, I'll give this recipe a 9.1 out of 10. I recommend all of you to try it at home. Thank you for 200,000 subscribers. It means a lot to me. I'm extremely excited about the growth of our community, and I can't wait to share more recipes with you. Alright, thank you.
Overall, I don't think FutureCanoe did that bad, even though that, well, the toffee the first time, look, he split it. It did kind of look like diarrhea, didn't it? In any case, the recipe may not be bad. It's just that you need to be very careful when following this recipe because it seems a little more technical than, well, more technical than it should be. 2 days waiting for a cookie recipe. That's torture, especially for children. They want it now. Let me know if you did enjoy this video, guys, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel as it helps the channel and the video out greatly. And let me know down below if you want more like pastry or cookie reviews, because if so, we'll do them. And well, I need to make a couple more recipes as well. Until then, take care. Be sure to check out some of my pastry recipes below, and I will see you again very soon.